Good morning and welcome to our podcast. Good morning. I'm so glad that you all are here.
Facing the lion is always positive. And so I ask you today, as we are going to be facing our lions or challenges of the week, what did you face this week that was challenging?
Welcome to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. Today we're going to be talking about abuse. What kind of abuse? We're going to pay attention to the abuse that affects so many people, and that's various kinds of abuse. But first, what I'd like to start out with is abuse of a child. Let's really get into that. Let's really get into that. And if you know of any children, if you are yourself needing to think about what it looks like, here's the number to call: 800 422 4453. I'm going to repeat that number again. And that number is 1-800-422-4453. We want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, and we want to inform you of abuse that is going on. And sometimes we don't even know it. We're going to get into it. Child abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, emotional, psychologically, or maltreatment or neglect of a child by their caregiver. We must take action, and even if it looks like us, we want you to be able to look at it, and we want you. Good morning, Trish. Are you here? We want you to be able to recognize it. We want you to be able to stop it before it gets started. We want you to know that child abuse can be many forms: emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect of a child. Sometimes we may not admit it to ourselves when there is a case of it, because nowadays anybody can call it. The proper number for the child abuse needs to be up, and that number is, hang on just a moment, because I just repeated it. Child abuse. Okay, here's the proper number: 1-800-422-4453. That is the child abuse hotline. And that number is again 1-800-422-4453. That's the number. Okay. We need to look at this because it's been something that's been on my mind. And I certainly want to address it because I have a lot of people that come to our center. Sometimes we don't think it's child abuse, when in fact it is. You know, there's so many people today call in. They call unnecessarily. Well, some call, and children have been victimized because of not getting proper help. So, what are the symptoms? What are the symptoms of child abuse? Some children who have been abused may feel ashamed. Some children may feel guilty, confused, and they may be afraid to tell someone or anyone. It's so important for us to watch the red flags, especially if you're in the education system. If you are a mandate reporter, I am a mandate reporter because I am certified teacher and have been. Although I'm retired, I still am a mandate. That means that if I have any cases of that, I don't ignore it. We ask you not to ignore it. Good morning, Trish. What are the symptoms? Withdrawal from friends or usual activity, changes in behavior, such as aggression, anger, hostility, changes in school performance, depression, anxiety, or unusual fears of a sudden loss of self confidence, sleep problems and nightmares, and apparent lack of supervision. Some of the signs can be frequent absences from school, rebellious or defiant behavior, even to the point where children might self harm, even hurting themselves. We need to look at this because we are the adults here and we need to see warning signs. Does that mean every time you see a child that gets no sleep is abused? No, that is not what that means. But these symptoms can also vary. Physical abuse signs are also unexplained injuries, bruises, can be broken bones, and that's not to say that all broken bones are due to child abuse. Let's get that straight. Some injuries may not match what the explanation is. I remember one time my youngest used to always get injured because he loved sports, as any boy would. He didn't mind hurting himself. And I said to him one day, do you know that the hospital is going to think that you're being abused if I bring you into the hospital one more time? They're going to think that. And you know what? I said that to the doctor. You know what the doctor said? We understand. We understand. We know what those bruises are. And I thought to myself, how many children have they so abused and someone has given them a story that doesn't match? It's really something to think about, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Um, Sexual abuse is also a form of child abuse. What have some of the signs been? Sexual behavior, uh, or knowledge of things that are inappropriate. And nowadays, boy, you just look on some of the social medias and you say, wow, these children at such a early age are being sexualized. Be careful with that. Pregnancy or a sexual transmitted disease, infection, injury uh, to uh, their genital parts, statements by a child that they have been uh, inappropriate sexual behaviors with other children. Now we're going to talk about emotional inappropriate or delayed emotional development, loss of self confidence or self esteem. When they're in a social setting, they tend to withdraw. That may be symptomatic for this. Not saying that all cases are the same. Just remember, I said that. Losing interest in the social setting or not being enthusiastic. Depression. I've said that word. Depression, avoidance of certain situations, maybe refusing to go to school or ride the bus. One who desperately seeks affection or have the appearance of decrease in school performances, loss of interest in school, loss of previously acquired developmental skills. Maybe that child was once a very high performing child and then all of a sudden it has lost interest in academics. Neglect. Neglect. Another form. For growth. Maybe, and we're not doctors. I researched things and this was something that was in the list. Things that are not being adequately addressed with weight gain, poor personal cleanliness. We're talking about signs of neglect, lack of clothing or supplies for physical things such as soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, washcloth, hoarding or stealing food. Again, poor record of school attendance, lack of inappropriate medical, dental, or other things that might be going up, not getting the care that they need. Now, on this list, it has behavior of the parents. I want you to listen to this very closely. Let's identify it so we know when to stop it. Even if it's you today, I want you to look at it and see how it affects your child or the one that you say that you can talk about children. Sometimes a parent's demeanor or behavior sends red flags about a child's abuse. Some of the warning signs are shows little concern for the child. That parental behavior is unable to recognize physical or emotional distress in the child, or blaming the child for the problems. Consistently belittles or berates the child and describes the child with negative terms such as worthless or evil. Expects the child to provide attention and care to the parent and seems jealous of other family members getting attention from the child. Uses harsh or physical discipline. I want to stop for a minute there because there has been situations where a child back in my day, okay, our parents whooped us, okay, and I'm not going to say, you're not going to get my opinion about it, so don't call me with it because it's not my right. But now things are different today, where if you're choosing a form of discipline, you cannot leave any marks on a child because they will come to school, and if they're like that, we have to write that down. Now, remember what I said. I came from an era where our parents whooped us with a belt. Okay, but you know what? I'm thankful that our parents disciplined us because there is a loss of respect. The point, the point being is that whatever discipline we're choosing, it must be discipline that is not going to put the child in harm, but indeed make it effective. And it doesn't always have to be a spanking. Times have changed. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Demands, inappropriate uh, physical things happen, and then when their parents are making inappropriate discipline, such as this one. There was once a time where we had someone call us in. The parent was upset because the child was making C's. A C is average and it is passing. So the child became very stressed because to him, his parents required better than a C. And I've always said, do your best and your best. Oh, that's what I. Here's another behavior of an adult severely limits that child's contact with others. Think about that. Children are very sociable. A lot of children. Some children are shy. I had one that was very sociable and one that was very shy. And they reach their own levels, and that's okay. But when you have a child that really doesn't associate with anyone, look into that because it could be something happening at school. Today, I bring this to your attention. When you ask a child what happened to them, we have a case in Palmdale, the Antelope Valley, of a young boy that was about 8 years old, would come to school with bruises on him. The court failed this young man, and both the parents were charged with his death. Need I say more? Now, whatever school he was going to, I don't know why no one didn't protect that child, because I always felt like that. Even with my kids, my grandchild, I'm the same way. I know what they look like when they laugh, and I know what they look like when they come home. If I see something different, because kids play hard, they hurt themselves when they run, because they just run wild. If you've ever been on the playground, you know what that's like. They're just running wild, and they're going to fall, they're going to hurt themselves, because children are children. But when it's no explanation, or the explanation doesn't fit the occasion, then that's red flag. Or when they say they don't know what happened. That is very common. You remember the thing that I said about bringing a child to the hospital and having them checked? That's also on the list. It's on the list of repeated. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it was repeatedly that my son would injure himself. And the doctor said to me, "Oh, we know that you don't abuse your kids. We know what kind of signs are there. So I want to talk to you, you who are out there. The doctors are already aware. If you are fitting this occasion of abusing your child, maybe you hit that child too hard and something happens. Sometimes even as adults, we have to take that time. Did you all know that?" So there are things like that. The physical punishment. How many times has a child been and spanked in a very harsh and unnatural way? I'm not going to get into spanking your child. I know that spankings didn't kill me. That's what I do know. I'm alive. I'm a respectful adult while being at the age that I am. I still call people Mr. and Mrs. The schools, I don't know if anybody knows, but these children run over the adults in the classroom. They are now even fighting, physical fights breaking out at school. And these teachers are tired of it, because here's what happens. We don't know what environment a child, because a child is more than a student to me. That child may live in a hostile environment. That child may live in a neglectful environment. But now, some of these children beat up on the student. And if it were reversed, that teacher would lose their job immediately. Why are these things happening? Let's think about this. You know, there are parents who say don't spank their children. And you know what I always say? Those are the parents that don't have any children. The ones who always say, oh, I don't spank my child. Well, it's your choice. But if you put children who are disciplined, discipline them properly. Because there's a right way and a wrong way. And Tricia and I are not here to tell you which way you should do it. Just know the fine line between abuse and punishment. You know, when I was growing up, as my parents, and we called it whoopings. And you old schoolers, you know what I'm talking about. Nowadays, they have the parents very afraid to even say anything to the children. Well, you want to put a fine line in your home and be able to understand the difference. That's why parenting classes are good. I'll tell you why parenting classes are good for people, not even people that have been caught in the system, but I think everyone should take a parenting class because you can see how easy it is to get your child in the system. It's so easy to get them in the system. Can I tell you the adverse effect of that? That it's so hard to get them out of the system. That's why we are encouraging you, please stop the abuse. Sit down for a moment because in the heat of the moment, none of us really think clearly. There's been doctors, there's been lawyers, there's been poor, rich people that have had a case of perhaps child abuse. Did they mean it? No. They were good, law abiding citizens. A lot of times the abuse happens. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, because we let our emotions take over. We don't challenge ourselves to say, I'm angry right now and let me calm down. We don't take a moment to say, I'm not going to deal with that right now. Let me calm down. How about we challenge ourselves to stop the abuse? Sure, you might have had a hard day at work. Sure, you might be going through financial situation. Sure, the school is called one too many times on your son or your daughter. And you're just plain irritated, frustrated, and angered, to say the least. There was a case of a man, a young man, who was never really around children. So he met this woman, and the woman was a hardworking mother. She had a young daughter, maybe 2 to 3 years old. And here the man was into the relationship, and he was forced to babysit this child. So one day, he decides that he is going to punish the 2-year-old. And if you've had a 2-year-old, they don't call it the terrible twos for nothing. And that's not saying that it's the baby's fault, because we know, as rational thinking people, what could a 2-year-old have done to make you, in the heat of the moment, he threw the baby on the bed very, very hard. While this happened, the baby, as the baby was thrown on the bed very, very hard, she ended up hitting her head. Did he mean to kill the baby? Having to read Having read the story, guys, and this is a true story. No, no, he didn't mean to. But already in his personality, as he rightfully admitted, he already had pent up aggression. He was with not a baby of his own, that wasn't his baby. Still, it gives him no right, and I repeat this throughout this podcast. No rights that he should have had that much pent up aggression. He couldn't revive the baby, so he called its mother and said, just one moment. Trish, can you take over for a second, please?
Just hearing about how abuse affects people, it makes me think about how I react when I get angry, or what are the things that are within me that I haven't talked about that's pent up, and when someone makes me upset and how I react towards it. And that ties in with abuse and pent up aggression and things that make people react the way that they do. So it's important to think about mindfulness and patience when you are angry or in the heat of the moment.
Thank you for that. So, the moral of the story is, and Trish hit it on the head, that pent up anger that he had, not checking the emotion, not checking through it, because he had no experience with children. He was a young 20 something years old. He wasn't a father, but yet he was pushed in the situation to have to watch a child every day. The best thing for him to have to do was having said, this is probably not a good idea for me. Because some parents fully know, you know, some of us are better with children than others. It's just our makeup. But you must figure it out. Check into your mental health and your emotional health, because some of our adult behaviors are passed down. Come a little closer. I said some of our adult behaviors are passed down generationally. You know how I said I grew up, and back in the day we got whoopings. My parents were not child abusers, because there's a lot of things that you could have done back then that you aren't able to do now. And that's why we have this disorder. Your child may come to school beating up the teacher, and the parent says, well, there was a reason my child did that. You see where I'm going with this? When we need to sit down and find out what is going on with our children. Because really, you know what we don't know? We don't know if something really has happened. So we need to look through, look within. We need to know that um, spanking a child should not put a scar on a child. Did you hear what I said? Spanking a child should not put a scar on a child. Now, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to tell you if you should or shouldn't. But the moral of the discipline is we never want to cause a scar. Do our children have to be disciplined? If you're a parent, you know the answer. But there is proper discipline. And if we get out of the realm of that discipline, we could be known as a child abuser. Sometimes parents, because they've been in the heat of the moment, like the young man reported that that child was not breathing sometime later because he said that the child went to sleep. How many times have we been, as parents, we put our child to sleep? You think nothing of it, but he was angry. That child lay in that bed unalive for hours. The mother came home in hysterics. I want to tell you, parents, stop leaving your children with people you don't know. That's a form of stopping abuse. You couldn't pay me to have left my children, and I'm so grateful for that, with people that I didn't know. Even if it was a daycare, the policy was it was always an open door. Beware of the daycares that you're putting your children in that say, we have a closed door policy. Because if they do that, guess what? That's a red flag. Stop the abuse. We must realize that our children are that. They're children. We must realize how we can pass it down through generations. If there's a history of being abused or neglected as a child, if you don't know better, you can't do better. You must learn to do better. We encourage you to reach out. Sometimes our risk factors may be dealing with a physical, mental, emotional, stress disorder, post traumatic stress. The list goes on and on and on. Sometimes in the family, there might be stress that is domestic violence, where the mother and the father continue to fight, and that's what that child sees. And because one or both of them are so frustrated, they take it out on what is the child. Sometimes when children, and this makes me sad too, are born born with physical disabilities and things that challenge them as children. You know, children are going to take on their own personality, but a parent could be very resentful and take it out on their child. I could probably raise a few hairs because I research so much. Unemployment, financial stress, poverty, families who isolate themselves. Let's be careful because somewhere, somehow, you're going to need to get into society. Don't cripple your children. They have to go to school. Even if, even if it's home study, let them have a, a flow of interaction. And of course, we want to watch who they interact with. Sometimes because the parent has not been parented properly, they've got to learn child development and the parental skills. If they've never been taught to parent, how will they know? That's why I say the Healing Center offers parenting classes, not just from my perspective, because we're all different in how we raise our children. Our cultures are different, but raise them so that you're not leaving them physical or emotional injuries. We've all said things we didn't mean. And then there's other things. If there are drug addictions, alcohol addictions, that's a whole nother scope of trying to deal with yourself plus your child. If any of you are having this situation, we encourage you to. Isn't it better to reach out than to be sorry? Because I'm going to tell you one thing. The 20-year-old did not realize his strength may have been maybe in his late 20s. He didn't realize his strength, doesn't know how to deal with a 2-year-old, because how many times have we watched little people? And 2-year-olds, you got to keep up with them. Nevertheless, because he was put in that situation and already had pent up aggression and stuck with a child all day long, that mother has had to suffer too because she made a decision based upon, I got a boyfriend. Let's stop this. The child should mean more to us than anyone walking on the earth. Stop putting your child second. The child should be first in your life. You are its parent, and they rely on you. There's so many problems that we are challenges that we must think about that have affected the child. Some are never going to be able to tell their story because they're no longer among us. You are the parents, and if you need help, please get that. Let's put them as children. Children are sometimes faced with many, many things. They're faced with pressure, stress of school, stress of the teachers. Let's take action. Let's learn to heal. Let's learn to come together as parents, teachers, any stature in life, so that we can talk about this. It's not just me, but it's things that are affecting children. There's nothing that means more to me than to hear a child's laughter. I'm almost addicted to it when I can hear a child laugh. And you'll see a lot of it. I love children. Met a cute little 5-year-old that was reminding me by show of fingers that he was going to be turning 6 soon. The most adorable kid. Let's keep him safe. Let's say something when we know something isn't right. And you teachers, if they're in your classroom from 9 to 3 in the afternoon or 9 to 4, you begin to start taking responsibility. Look at them. Say good morning to them. Treat them as individuals. Now, because I was a teacher, and I'm retired, when I first started teaching, I had 30 students. That was teaching preschool. That's where I started. Teach them to know you, know your student. You don't have to be one of the students that everything that is said, you're going to write it down. One time, I had a student that told me that his mother or his grandmother whooped him. And you know what I asked him? What did you do? Because I knew the grandmother and I knew the student. Never came to school with bruises on him. Never came with broken arms, broken legs. You know what he came to school with? Good hygiene, smart, just rambunctious. Most kids are that age are. But I'll never forget that. Because sometimes our children can test us, and you know what they say? I'm going to call child services. One time I had disciplined my child, and I talked crazy to him. He said, I'm going to tell. Guess what I did? I got out of the car. I took him into the office, and I said to him, or said to the office lady, his name's Christopher. Christopher has something he'd like to tell you. So he was going to tell that I had slapped him because he was acting a fool. But see, I know my strength. And our children will use that word against us and end up somewhere they don't want to be. So my child, who was in grade school then, got very scared. No, it's okay. I said, what he was going to tell you is that I slapped him. But you can check, I said, to see if there's any marks on him. They did nothing. Why did they not do anything? Because they knew that I was no child abuser. And we must stop playing this game of I can't discipline my child. If you want to know about disciplining the child and what is proper and what is not, take a parenting class. And make sure the person that you're going to be taking the parenting classes from has children. You don't want to take a parenting class from somebody that has no children. Because believe me, any mother, any father will vouch for me to say the things that we go through with our children. But it still gives us no right to abuse our children. And it gives you no right to say, don't spank your children or do spank your children. But I encourage and I challenge each and every one of you. Our challenge is stop abusing. Even little kindergartners. I can tell when a kindergartner is stressed. I don't even have to know them. There's signs. Do you know them? When your child comes home from school, just the other day, a little girl, and it just drives me up a wall that a little girl took her own life because some kid, some smart mouth kid, told her that the people were going to come from uh, the place to take her mommy and her daddy away, and she's going to be all alone in California. I don't know if you guys heard about that. That little girl's dead now. This is what our kids are doing. So as parents, we're older. We should put our children first place, first priority. If you are a working parent, know the relationship between the teacher and your child and that classroom. Because if teachers aren't honest, they're not going to tell you they're having a problem with bullying. They're not going to tell you that because that means that that's going to be one less head in that classroom. And the more kids that are out of that classroom, the less they get paid on their paycheck. All they think about is getting their bills paid. There should be open discussions about bullying and what to do. These are kids. And if you're not going to be a good teacher, don't apply for the job. Because children can be being abused in school and you would never know it. Because why? You were too busy, too tired. And the teachers that say, why are you calling me for the seventh time? Because for the seventh time, you have not corrected your child. We must band together as teachers, administrators, and parents to be on one accord because abuse comes in all forms for children. We don't know if even the children are being abused by a teacher. You know, think about all these teachers that have their masters, their bachelors. They abuse children too. Does that mean everybody? Let's get on board with our emotions and our experiences. You know that I'm not talking about every teacher. Check into your child. Don't just let them go to school to be babysat. But every teacher should take about 20 minutes. You've got 20 minutes somewhere in that day, okay? Instead of meeting what they want you to do per academics for the day. 20 minutes to check into your students. Let's do that because some of our children are suffering. They're not going to tell you that they're having violence in the home. They're not going to tell you that they've been sexually abused, physically abused. It's like the little boy told me that his grandmother had whooped him. There was no need for me to write that down because I came from a home where I got whoopings. And never once did any child protective services come into my home. I am a respectful adult. So for you parents that are walking around and you're scared to say anything to your children, you need to flip the script. Take a parenting class. Come to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion Healing Center, and it will challenge you. Those classes are going to start on Monday for anybody that wants to come. They won't be in order, but check out our list. I'm sure that Trisha's put it here for you to know what we're going to be talking about because they are challenging times. I can only imagine during the COVID what the parents went through versus the kids. Because we laugh and we joke about it. You know, when there used to be real long summers, school didn't start in August. School school started in September. We were out from June to September. And I already know we drove our parents crazy. And they couldn't wait for us to go to school. But they gave us stuff to do. Remember the chores you had to do before they got home? I used to wait till the last minute to do my chores. And my mom never told us when she was going to come home. You didn't get punched or beat because you didn't do it. You got a talking to. And you didn't dare talk back to your parents. See, your parents knew how to deal with you. You know, they say stuff like, don't roll your eyes at me, I'll roll them on the floor. They said that kind of stuff to you. And I've always appreciated it because I would never know what it was like for my parents to roll my eyes on the floor. Now that I would like to see. And I mean that in a joking way. Now you got parents that are really doing it. Doing crazy things. But do you know? And I call it crazy because they didn't think. The little boy ate the last piece of pie. I've said this story before. He ate that pie. And you know what happened to him? The father beat him to death. And do you know what the closing arguments were of that father? He said, if only he would have fought. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. So be it. But we need to think. We are the only ones that can stop it. And for those of you who know it's happening, whether it be a parent, whether it be someone that's an onlooker, shame on you. And I say shame because that child is not able to defend themselves. Know the difference between abuse and discipline. Even if you punish a child, what punishment would you use? Because I don't believe that anybody should be tied to a bed. I don't believe that anybody should be beaten to death, to be beaten where their bones are aching, to be beaten and left. I hear so many cases, I look at so many cases, and that's why I know that I should never, ever be an attorney for a child. I'm an advocate for a child, but I could never be because I already know how I feel about children. They have a right. Let's stop blaming our children for our bad actions or our And it's not our challenging actions. Let's take responsibility to educate ourselves, to educate our children. Nothing is easy. I've seen you parents when your child is throwing a tantrum in Walmart. I've seen the children and how they embarrass you when you're out to dinner. In closing, I'd like to say one of the ways that we stop abuse is by taking care of home. I'm going to be right back with Trisha's Treasures. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Be right back. Right back.
Change is hard for me because I'm not focused on it. So what do you need to change about that? You need to focus on yourself. How do we do that? We don't become blind to everything around us, but we have an incredible desire to help ourselves. You know how people say, may I help you? Ask yourself, may I help myself? Give yourself permission to help yourself. Because if you're always thinking about making the change, but never doing anything about it, you're never going to see that change.
We are back, and it's time for Trisha's Treasures. Trish?
I am learning right now in my courses about this exact same thing, about discipline and punishment and just emotions. I'm learning about that this week. And we had a discussion question about how we feel about punishment and discipline, and do they balance each other out, and how we would address it. And so I was reading other people's opinions about it, and I was thinking, I was trying to understand other people's opinions. Some people think um punishment shouldn't be a thing. Some people think that sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. And for me, what I said was, because um this class is about disabilities and the special needs. So this particular topic was about children with emotional disorder. So I said that children with emotional disorder, some of them do not understand what punishment and discipline is. They don't know how to take it, some of them, meaning they don't know how to address it, and they don't understand, why is this happening to me? Why am I in trouble? Why did this person take my crayons away because I just took somebody else's? Like, they don't understand. And so my answer was, children with emotional disorder can some of them cannot comprehend why they are being punished, and why and what the difference between discipline and punishment is. And so it's important to be vocal and explain in a way that they understand what is wrong, what is right, and to help them practice it, put it into practice, and to be patient with them because we feel we deserve patience, and so do they because they're human, just like the rest of us. So that's what I put as my answer. I got a 100 on it. I'm thankful for that. And so this podcast just made me think. Podcast just made topic just made me think about what we were talking about all week. We talked about trauma. We talked about unwanted emotions. And now we're discussing child abuse. And it's important because all three of these topics they go together in a way because trauma happens when something traumatic happens towards us and we feel that emotion, we feel the fear from it, we feel the resistance towards it, and some of the things in our lives we resent it because of that trauma, and it also builds unwanted emotions for us. Sometimes when I'm talking with people, I think about when I was bullied, and I automatically think, is this person judging me, or am I overthinking it, or not? I shouldn't talk to people in general because I don't want people to judge me. I don't want them to talk behind my back. I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I just close off talking to people in general. I'm working on it, guys. And it's because I'm traumatized from being bullied. And if you guys didn't know, bullying is abuse. Yes. Yes, it is. And it's important to identify whether you are a bystander or the person that is bullying someone. Sometimes you think it's a harmless joke, and that's understandable. But please take time to think about if that joke is too effective to that person, how it will impact that person you're making the joke about. Because, as I said in my response to the discussion, that they are human, just like you, just like me. And we deserve us, I feel like we deserve to be treated as we want to be treated, as we would treat other people. So if you wouldn't want someone to say that joke or just be any sort of aggressive or harmful towards you, please be mindful that they don't want that either. And I'm speaking from experience of being bullied. It was not fun. It is still affecting me. I am 23 years old, and I've been in high school for 12, not high school. I've been in school for a long time, and those 12 years, well, 13 years of being in public school has affected me, and I'm still healing from it. I'm still trying to balance the reality of the jokes versus how I think of myself and my self esteem and how it has affected me mentally. And sometimes it's hard to deal with it on some days. I'm here to be honest with you guys because we're talking about facing challenges. And it's a challenge to deal with those thoughts sometimes because sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning just thinking about those memories, and just it hurts a lot. It really does. And I try to think about positive things. So I say that to say, what do you say to people matters. how you affect people. It's real. You affect people. You impact people with the things that you do, the things that you say. And it's important to practice. Just think about practicing patience, practicing taking a deep breath. That's why we have a relaxation session for our healing center guys. So it's important to relax, take a breather, think about, okay, it wasn't a good day today. Let me just wind down. Let me just calm down. Or if you want to talk about it to someone and you don't have anyone to talk to, you feel as though you don't have anyone to talk to, you can journal it. You can draw about it. Or what I do is I record myself talking about my day and I listen to me talk. That's what I do. I'm not sure if anyone would like to try that, but it helps me when I feel like I have no one to talk to. So, if anyone's going through abuse, we have resources in our comment section and they will be in our description when we post this on YouTube.
Thank you for that. You can see Trisha's Treasures on YouTube as well as on our live. Come listen to her music as well. You'll find that in the description as well. In closing, I know this was hard to face, but it is all about emotion. How do we prevent it in closing? We want to be able to provide a safe, stable, and nurturing, safe space for our children. Do we sometimes have to correctly discipline them? Yes. But it's going to be, as Trish says, how we do it. How are we talking to them? We need to listen to them, be involved in them. I never for once, as an imperfect parent, not got involved with my child's education. I knew their teachers, and their teachers knew me. They knew when to call me, and they also knew that as a parent, I was never too busy to come to their open houses, their back to schools. I was there. Why? Because sometimes it just isn't enough for your child to tell you if there's a problem. You can go to school and see if there's a problem. So be supportive. Don't be the parent that says, my child didn't do that. Have an open ear for both child and teacher. Your child, after all, has to live with you until they're old enough, maturely, to care for themselves. So listen, help them to build self-worth. Another thing, your anger. Remember we talked about pent-up anger or frustration? It can feel like it's out of control. After all, it's not the child that needs to take the break. Tell yourself, you adult. You need to take a break. Better known, give yourself time. And then reach out to places like the Healing Center. It doesn't matter where you live. Make a phone call before you get to that point to say, I'm having challenges coping. I'd rather have a live child than a dead child. Think about how you would feel. Think about what your childhood was like. And if you even need supervision, don't let the system do it to you. Rather, tell yourself, just like the young gentleman in our story today, our life story today, you should have just said, I cannot be home with that 2 year. I don't have a job and I don't have the skills to be able to make sure as a parent that you have time to volunteer at the school with things so rampant and crazy they don't really allow you to be on campus, but be involved. Be involved as much as you can. Spend time with your child. Be able to encourage them to talk things out. Know who your children are with. If you don't know the person well enough, why should you leave your child with someone that you hardly even know? When do you say no? Well, funny thing is, my child bought me a shirt, a Mickey Mouse shirt that has the word nope on it. Why did he get me that shirt? Because he says, Mom, you always say no. Here's the reality. Every time I said no, it was going to be something that I knew was either going to be trouble or it's not going to work out. So encourage your child, encourage them immediately, hug them more often. And if you have a child that's very quiet and shy, learn how to be able to skill. We talk about those things right at Vibe Talk, facing the line, healing. We want you to stop it before it gets started. Reach out. If you feel like, one more thing before we go, if you are worried that you might abuse your child, because I'm sure we've all been there, that we wanted to knock them to the other side of the room, let's think about this and let's get help. Maybe you're not going to go as far as the child abuse hotline. I get that. Call your best friend. They'll listen to you. They might even help you to keep you from abusing your child. But we do have that child abuse hotline again. That number is, and we want to make sure we have it correct, 1-800 422 4453. In short, 1-800 4 like the number for a child. Let's talk this out. Let's talk it over and see if we are the initiators of stopping abuse. I want to thank my amazing co-host, Trish. Thank you so much. I love your music and I love your treasure thoughts in the Trish Treasure. And I want to see so much more of that. I thank you, and I'm glad that you're on your way to healing from this terrible virus. All of you who have been the audience, we see you. We've been getting more likes to our pages. I don't know, Trisha, if you've noticed that. We thank you guys for that. Thank you for everyone who loves the Healing Center. I have been so busy that my head is spinning, but I'm enjoying it. We are open today. Please, if you need to come to the Healing Center, we'd love to have you. And don't forget, any donations that you guys want to give is not ours personally. We have a GoFundMe. We'll put that in the comments below. Um, that way you know. And also for our um, face the lion, or Vibe Talk Face the Lion for the Cash App. It all goes toward our center. One final announcement is that I said that the classes that you have the list of, okay, they start Friday. This upcoming Friday, that's the 28th. And our center will be open from 9 to 12. Okay. So the classes start at 10 o'clock, 10 to 12. Come in, it's open, and we'd love to have you. If anybody else, if you see any other people that have set up GoFundMe and it's not through us, please call us and ask us, okay? Because we're using all of our funds for the center. We don't do anything else with that, okay? And we let you see how it's turning out. I'm going to be over there today. I have some appointments, and we just want to help you any way that we can. Reach out, reach out, reach out, reach in. We're begging. Thank you, everybody. And don't forget, Saturdays, we are a radio show, Vibe Talk After Dark. Smooth and chill music. And yes, Trish, I got your song on your playlist. We're still doing it. We want you guys to make us a playlist and we'll play it for you. So even when we're not on air, just follow the page at Vibe Talk After Dark radio show on Facebook. Send us a song, we'll play it. And you'll get to hear what I've chosen for the week. Take care, everybody. And don't forget, challenge yourself always, no matter what it is. Have a great and safe weekend. And so next time, we are Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast, streaming everywhere.
Because I don't want you just to make a resolution. I want you to think about. I was really by the phones and then I got the vibe in it. I really took the time with it. I really love the ride with it. Really got the vibe with it. I took the time with it. I really love the ride with it. You can finally see a better you when you get the vibe with it. Yeah, when you get the vibe with it. Yeah. Are not just saying something.